Welcome to Justice. This is our last episode of the season.
Whew, never would have made it. It's a little gospel, rendition.
Without me?
Look at you! Never would have made it without you, friend.
Same. This has been such a joy. And we're going to keep it going. Let's get going. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling exuberant.
Oh, okay.
I am feeling just really, really happy with all of the creative projects that are going on in my life right now, including the podcast. It feels really good.
Same. I'm also feeling very casual because I was given instructions to dress casual for this episode. So I'm wearing a casual jumpsuit and Tashira is wearing a leather mini skirt.
I don't know what part of casual a leather mini skirt is not. When I think of casual,
whatever, it's beautiful. It looks
leather
great.
and mini.
I'm feeling casual. I'm feeling casual for this episode. That's going to be intense. This episode is letters to our former selves, which I've been wanting to do this episode really since we kind of came up. We've been wanting to do this episode really since we came up with the idea of this podcast, because so much of our desires and joys in this season of life are because of the experiences we've had in others.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to be transparent and vulnerable and raw. And we encourage you all, if you were moved by this episode, to do the same. But let's talk about our sponsor for today, Em. It is the kind people over at Penny Post. If this is not your first episode listening, then you know how much Margo and I love a good written note, love stationery, love planning, stickers, all of the accoutrements that have to do with just this age-old practice of sending handwritten notes and just privileging the written word in a really special way. They are a woman-owned business in Old Town Alexandria in Northern Virginia, but they also have a very, very robust online website.
And if you're in the DC area, definitely check them out. It's a really special, very, very sweet place.
It feels like Narnia. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah. Tashira got me into journaling through Penny Post, which now I'm not only casual, but inspired to work on my journal tonight. So thank you for that, Penny Post. Okay. Dumb shit men say.
Whew. Presidential candidate and former Senator Rick Santorum. I think the right approach is to accept this horribly created, in the sense of rape, but nevertheless a gift in a very broken way, the gift of human life, and accept what God has given you. Rape victims should make the best of a bad situation. Best of a bad situation, Margo. What do you think about that?
I'm kind of speechless. This quote, as opposed to the quote we did for the abortion and sexual reproductive health episode, which aired a few weeks ago, admits that pregnancies can happen because of rape. So there is a distinction here with Senator Rick Santorum.
Yes.
But it's further complicated by this like imposed belief or like something that someone else has any ownership over how someone should feel about their own body and bodily processes.
Well, and also that religion should have a role in it as well. And I think when we talk about like the rise of these religious fundamentalist conservatives on the right, that they would be very happy to have no separation of church and state.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where Rick Santorum is on the political spectrum from that perspective, but what I can say is,
well, we can assume. I mean, I guess we shouldn't assume, but we can extrapolate.
Who are you to tell someone who may not practice religion in the same way as you do, who may be atheist, who may be agnostic, to accept the gift that God has given them? And how do you know that that was intended to be a gift from God? Because you are not God, which is often my issue.
And are we saying that perpetrators of sexual assault and rape are God?
Or that they are tools used by God in this positive way.
To give someone a gift.
To give someone a gift. You really...
Of trauma?
So following this line of thinking, you see God in that type of way? I don't want to go to your church, friend. I don't know what y'all doing up in there, because I don't see God, the universe, and definitely not spirituality in a way that is anywhere akin to that foolishness. But I have to say, to be fair, that Margo, we know lots of people who do believe something similar. And I don't know about the case of rape, but we know obviously there are many people who believe that abortion is a sin. Sometimes even contraception is a sin. And so he's speaking to those people, and I don't want us to get into the right and wrongs of religion. I don't think anybody ever wins when we have that conversation, right?
No, I agree.
But the importance is to understand, at the very least, in these here United States of America, that we don't have to all believe the same fucking thing.
And why do your beliefs have any impact on what I do with my body?
With my body.
You can believe whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can make whatever decisions you think are right for you and your God.
Here we go. Right. So,
but your God and my God and your body and my body are different.
I'm telling you right now, they ain't even in the same sandbox. We ain't on the same continent. We ain't in the same zip code. The geographical coordinates don't line up. If that's how you see God in religion, fine for you. Do you, bruh. So if the people close to you who have similar beliefs to you feel like this is a gift from God, okay, I disagree, but okay. But what you ain't gonna do is tell me that it's a gift from God because I got raped, or I am a victim, God forbid, of childhood molestation or incest, and I should make the best of a bad situation. This isn't like me fucking stumping my toe, right? This isn't me getting a paper cut, the best of a bad situation.
Or like not studying for an exam.
And then getting a failing grade.
Right. This is like being violated.
In one of the most heinous ways imaginable. And so what that makes me think too, Em, is that these talking points are just another incidence of violence. So it is the violent act.
It's violent, and it's also a way to gaslight people who have had a horrible experience and are trying to come to terms with what they need to do for themselves.
Oh, yes.
So instead of them digging deep into their self and their soul and making a determination about what is right for them, they're being told that their bad experience shouldn't have any impact on their decisions.
What the entire fuck?
It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, for former Senator and presidential candidate Rick Santorum, it does. And I think we can both agree that it speaks volumes to where we are today in the political climate.
Absolutely.
More dumb shit than men say. Coming soon. Season 2.
Let's see what happens after the elections in November. We're going to get some good content.
Yes.
That's also, everyone should vote, obviously. Okay, we got to get to it because we have a lot to cover. And I think one of the, Tashira and I, obviously, I think people are aware if they've been listening to us now for a few weeks, we do not have a script. And we do not share what we're going to talk about, though we do have an outline. And we do know broadly what questions we're going to cover. This one feels even more like I have no idea where this is going to go, because the assignment that we gave each other was to write a short letter to ourselves at different ages. We were tasked with one age between 0 and 10, one between 10 and 20, one between 20 and 30, and then a hope for our 40s. So presumably we're going to be picking different ages, different times in our lives and different experiences. And we didn't give each other like any instructions about what the letters should say, only that they be 2 or 3 sentences long.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here we go.
And for folks who are listening, you should know that we have a box of tissues on the table in case things get a little emotional.
And we have our phone because we both wrote the letters to ourselves on our phone.
Absolutely. Get us started, friend. Tell us the age and put us there. Picture it, Sicily.
Sicily. Hawaii. No, I've never been to either Sicily or Hawaii, but someday. Age 8, I'm living at home with my parents. I say to myself that, Margo, you're a child. Your responsibility is to grow. I wish someone had told you that you alone cannot and should not take on your parents' well-being as your own. and you cannot solve their tribulations. Your loneliness is also not your fault. Being alone can be scary, but it also can be fun.
Mm. So you were at that age an only child. Your
Mm-hmm.
brother hadn't been born yet.
Yeah, I was an only child. My parents were kind of in the throes of infertility and had struggled with a lot of really traumatic losses for them. My dad was a solo entrepreneur. My mom was also working full time. And I was an only child and really, really wanted a sibling.
Mm.
And also was going to school far away from my home. So I didn't really have a home community. And I did have a school community, but it was far away.
Yeah. What do you mean by it's not your responsibility for your parents?
My parents were really struggling during that time, and I didn't want them to be. I wanted them to be happy,
Yeah.
and I wanted them to feel. I mean, however, an 8-year-old can like. I felt a lot of I felt like they felt a lot of tenseness and instability, and I wanted to solve that for them.
Mm. So now's the moment that I bring up for listeners kind of how this came full circle, at least for me, because in a previous episode, you talk about being a nurturer and a caretaker. And I'm wondering if
For sure.
this time period
For sure.
is where that comes from.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you.
All right, so first trigger warning for folks who may have experienced sexual abuse or rape or incest, that I'm going to be very transparent about that, okay? So trigger warning, and if that is something that is difficult for you, then fast forward beyond my first letter to myself. So I was 5 years old, and I had just come home from a sleepover with a family member. And a family member with whom I lived was giving me a bath. And I feel like my vagina must have been irritated, although I don't really remember. And so immediately they get very upset, begin questioning me. What's going on? What happened? Why do you look like that? Now, mind you, I was 5, so this was my interpretation. And I froze and got very, very scared and thinking that I had done something wrong. So my letter to myself at 5 is, do you know what the word victim means? It means someone has done something bad to you. That's what happened last night, and it's okay to tell a grown up. Do not feel shame or guilt, and you can tell them no loudly or quietly or repeatedly. Your body is yours, and it belongs to no one else. And I think what happened, Margo, is that I began to associate so many negative feelings with that part of myself, not just the abuse, which at 5 I didn't recognize it was abuse because I thought I had done something wrong. But as I became older, what I began to understand was that that 5-year-old telling me, you should not enjoy sex. Sex is bad. Being desired, having sexual desires is bad. And there was a very clear connection for me for many years where I couldn't even talk to a partner about sex or after sex because I went immediately into a very deep place of shame and guilt. And it was a source of embarrassment for me, and I couldn't understand why I felt that way. And I know it's because this 5-year-old was making decisions, right? Was still in control. The trauma had not been addressed. And what I also think, and this is not to blame my family member, not my perpetrator, but the one who was bathing me, is that if they would have known to ask the question differently, it would have saved me from very, very many years of abuse. And so there's something there about how we hold space for people and for victims when they are children, most importantly.
And how we talk to people through trauma.
Yeah.
That in an intent versus impact conversation, right?
Yeah.
That's going to help a lot of people. And you also did not need to share that, but thank you.
I don't remember. I just told you that we healed in community.
Yep. I think the other thing that's, I once had a supervisor tell me people like to pretend that child sexual abuse doesn't happen, but it's rampant.
Oh, girl. I had a therapist tell me, because I couldn't understand it, right? And this is what happens when we're silent about our pain. Is that I had a therapist tell me, you grew up in a culture of abuse and incest. It was so eye-opening for me, because it was everywhere. I don't remember a time where sexual play, playing house, hide and go get it, hide and hunch. I don't remember a time where some sort of inappropriate touch was not a part of my experience. It was pervasive, for sure.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And even if it was pervasive, it doesn't have to be normalized.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that we can share moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing, Shai. Okay. Want to go?
Let's go.
Age 17. Your value as a human being is not determined by a number on a scale or your grades or other outputs. They do not define you. You will meet yourself not by striving for someone else's definition of your success and worth, but by looking inward. The quicker you realize that, the better off you will be. Keep listening to your gut. Others' ideas may not be for you, and they are not ready.
They are not ready. Talk your shit, friend. They are not motherfucking ready. I love that. Put us there.
So, there's like a lot there's like everyone, my teen years like had some pretty high highs and low lows, but right in this moment, I'm a sophomore, like end of my sophomore year in high school, I think, and I came from two places. One, like a family and community that valued academic rigor and success over almost anything else, and that looked a certain way. So that's one. I also grew up dancing. I was a ballet dancer, which was a wonderful and toxic part of my childhood, in that what was valued was thinness and beauty, two things of which I never could attain to the standard that was expected of me. So I was always told that I was overweight or needed to lose weight, and always felt really kind of angry at my body. And so I felt like I was always failing in these two different areas. Like school, I was a very, very good student, but school never came easily to me, or I never perceived it as coming easily. So I used to do stuff to Shira, like sleep on my books, because I thought that by like sleeping on them, like the material would, really, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And even before I was 17, like I was staying up till like 2 or 3 in the morning when I was in middle school studying.
Oh my God, Margo.
Because I was so afraid of failing. And I just felt really, always like really out of control in these ways. Like I never was going to be okay, because I was never going to be smart enough or thin enough or beautiful enough or successful enough. And I remember, particularly during this phase of high school, really feeling like I wasn't a partier. I was very insecure. I was pretty quiet. And I had a lot of responsibilities at home. I had a much younger brother. And feeling really out of it socially, and also really wanting to be part of a social community, but feeling really scared because I didn't want to drink, and I didn't want to do drugs, and I wasn't experienced, and just feeling so afraid that I couldn't ever experience these things because I didn't I wasn't like anyone else. And I wish, I wish that I had just allowed myself to like love that part of me, because if I had, all of those other things would have come in time. Like people weren't ready, right? People were like hooking up. Oh, right. We talk about hooking up. People were, being intimate because they were fucked up.
Yeah.
Like they weren't like intimate. They weren't making connect. I mean, some people I'm sure were. But so I just wish that I hadn't thought of myself as so flawed for so long.
And then the thin part, how did you grow beyond that?
I mean, I think my relationship with diet culture has like changed over time. I think becoming, well, first of all, I just like didn't want to live like that anymore.
Yeah.
And I really like to eat. So
amen.
That helped. I also stopped dancing, which was hard, but also really helpful because I wasn't kind of around the severity and pervasiveness of eating disorders, because I was always kind of like on the cusp of an eating disorder, but also like didn't want to do that to my body. So I was always kind of like in this weird interplay between feeling really like overweight or fat, but also knowing that starving myself wasn't an
option.
Yeah. I also have like an incredibly thin mom, and it was really important to her that I was also thin. So I think and then I went to college and, like gained a ton of weight and partied a lot and just like let it happen over time.
Good for you.
But I think the biggest change has been having children.
Okay.
And just like only wanting them to have the fullest opportunity to have a healthy relationship with their bodies and the outside world, which is food.
That is good. So there's a certain amount of healing that has happened as a result of motherhood, parenthood. Okay, friends. So I too 17. I'm 17.
My gosh.
I too am 17. I'm 17.
I was 18 when she was 17. Just putting that there.
And my best friend, who is still my homie writer, Dion, who you know.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know her. I can't wait to meet her.
We met the summer before our 9th grade year. We were international baccalaureate students. We were in this accelerated program for folks who are not aware, kind of similar to AP, but a bit more intense. And so we were one of the very few Black students who had been recruited to take the exam, and we both gotten in. And we were preparing for college and were hyper focused on scholarships. And I think it's because I come from like this poor working class background. And by this time, my mom was doing well financially. And so would have been okay for college, but I still had like that early interpretation of our socioeconomic status. And Dion is a first generation. Well, actually, she was not even first gen. Like she was born in another country, moved here when she was 8 years old. Boom. So that tells you about like our hyper focus on education and scholarship money, a bit of insight into that. And so I was kicking ass in school, dog. And it was so funny because like we had these...
Not a surprise.
3 students.
PhD in school.
These 3 students who just thought they were hot shit. And I would like go into physics and like set the curve for the exam. This is like AP physics. And they'd be like, did you set the curve? Did you set the curve? And I'd be like, nah, my G, I set the curve on this exam, right? And people were so confused because at the same time, I'm ratchet as fuck, right? Like, I'm a little ghetto, real country. And so they're confused that like, where she come from with this academic aptitude. So we go to this scholarship.
As though academic aptitude is directly related to socioeconomic status and whiteness.
At motherfucking all, right? But that is how it is interpreted in this society, right? So I come from this community that is seen as very under-resourced. And so for me to have this exceptional aptitude, this over 4.0 GPA.
Right. The expectation that you're going to go away to college.
All these things did not exist. And so we get to this scholarship banquet. These top 3 students were there and others, students from all over the county. And we'd all written these essays and somebody from each, I don't even know, like region maybe, was selected for the scholarship based upon their essay. And so I remember my mom was there and I didn't live with my mom. And so she wasn't always like present for my school stuff, but she happened to have been home Go to the scholarship banquet, sit at the table, meet her. Then it's like Dion and her family. And they go through the names of the list of the people who were called. And they called my name. When I tell you, me and Dion stood up and jumped up and down and started embracing each other and crying, dog. It was like I had won the lotto, the Nobel Peace Prize.
Can you get to your letter? Can you get to your letter?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Setting the stage. Setting the stage.
But the
I
memory,
can feel the joy.
No, you can't feel the joy, Margo. Understand that we cried about a $500 scholarship.
Oh, it was $500.
This is my letter. Okay.
That's so cute.
You deserve, sis.
Mm-hmm.
You are the hope and dream of the enslaved. Your very being is magical and light shines infinitely. Embrace all that you are and all that you will become.
Yes. That is so awesome. Did you feel that at the time? You must. I don't know. Did you?
I felt that something magical was happening because in school, once I dedicated myself in a real way, I began to understand for the first time that I could get something out of what I put in, if that makes sense, right? It
wasn't just going through the motions.
I could try really hard and I can get good results. Mm-hmm. And I think this was an example of that I needed, especially at that age.
I love that.
Thank you.
Okay. Next. Do you want to go into your 20s?
Yep.
Okay. You go.
So I am 26 at the time of this letter. It is the first time in an abusive relationship that this person, in like a fit of rage, threw all of my things outside of our home. So I say to myself, this season will be tough, but you can do hard things, my G. Get ready to rise from the ashes like a phoenix. They are waiting on you to heal.
That's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. Rose, So it was a tough season, but it was just that it was a season.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't define you.
And it did not define me. And the thing that got me out of it was thinking about how I not only need to heal for myself, but also, especially my family, the young people who looked up to me. Yeah.
That's so true. Okay, mine. Age 24. I'm going to set the stage too, a little bit more.
Set the stage.
Age 24. I'm living in Boston. I'm in law school. Okay, that's the stage.
We can't get no more details. Okay, go ahead, girl.
The patriarchy and rape culture are alive. Your truth and needs are not for everyone. Please don't tamper yourself to fit in because it just doesn't work. Listen to your heart even when it confuses you and those around you. And don't force what is hard. Ease will come if you allow it in.
Ease will come.
So this isn't a hard one for me. My early 20s were a challenging time. I think they're a challenging time for a lot of people, even though there's this expectation that you're like living your best life or hot girl summer or whatever the fuck they call it. I went to law school because my dad wanted me to go to law school. And I was a good student and was working in nonprofits. And, I did what I was told and I applied to law school and I went to law school. And my law career has been incredibly fulfilling, but really, really hard. And it hasn't always been in line with, I think, like my true essence. And so there's like positives and negatives. But at that time, I was really deeply unhappy in law school. I hated it. I wasn't doing particularly well. I had just broken up with a very long-term relationship under pretty bad circumstances, was living on my own for the first time and felt really shaky. And I constantly was forcing myself into these boxes that felt really uncomfortable. And I wish I had just let myself be myself. And once I started like letting that happen, a lot of wonderful things happened.
Because it seems so so simple, but it can be so profound
Right.
in our lives to just be who we are. First, to define ourselves for ourselves, because I have a very similar experience, right? I said I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 5. I didn't even know what the hell a lawyer was.
Right.
But when I tell you, no one ever let me forget it. And my grandparents would sit me down and have me recite to people over and over again.
You were going to be a lawyer.
Tell them what your house is going to look like. Tell them where you're going to live. Tell them what you're going to do, right? And so I would have, all these dreams and experiences. And at some point I started to be like, I don't want to keep talking to people about that. I don't even know if that's what I want, right? But it sounded good when I was 5. And now here I am at 25, headed towards a very challenging career. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's 24.
That is 24. 24 and 26. So we're close in age there. Mm-hmm. Okay. 30s.
Age 36.
Mine is the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me set the stage. Age 36, I am living here in Cambridge. I have 2 children. Ella is 5. Valea is 2 or almost 2, depending on when this is. After a year of very insecure status at my previous job, get a full-time, long-term commitment from the institution, but not after having interviewed at 5 different other institutions across the country with a newborn. And I'm so tired. And you remember this, my anxiety, so I have an anxiety diagnosis, and my anxiety manifests mostly in insomnia in this weird way. Not weird, it's just my experience where, but people don't really believe me because I'm so sleepy, and I do nap a lot, and I nap in public a lot. But part of the reason I do that is because I'm so tired. And so I fall asleep really easily, and that's what people know about me. But I don't stay asleep. And so this was a period in my life where my child wasn't sleeping, but also I wasn't sleeping. And I had tried everything. I had, gone gluten-free. I'd gone dairy-free. I thought there was something I was doing, right? I put myself on all these weird diets to try to help me sleep. I wasn't drinking. I was not having caffeine. I tried all of these different things, and they would work for some period of time, but then they wouldn't. So that's the stage. Your mind is part of your body. Allow it to rest. Rest is not a luxury, even when it feels impossible to attain. Others don't see your needs, and you should not expect them to, no matter how much they love you. Their inability to see you for what you are going through is not an indication of how much they care. Allow yourself to care for your needs without guilt or inhibition. You cannot will yourself well by restriction, though sometimes it does help temporarily.
What do you mean, will yourself well by restriction?
I always, so I thought that there was something I was doing wrong. Something I was eating or something, I was drinking or, I shouldn't eat sugar or it was something I was doing. I was responsible. And we are responsible for our behavior, but our bodies, as we know, do things that our bodies do. Is someone who has diabetes responsible for their diabetes?
Yes. And I think it's so important for people to hear you say that. Absolutely.
Right? So if you're born with type 1 diabetes, you can't will yourself off insulin. Right?
Absolutely.
If you're born with a by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. If you're born with some of your brain chemistry a little wacky, you can restrict gluten, but you still have anxiety.
And I wonder if there's some part of that that's actually ableist too, because it is a denial of the diagnosis, and we know how this country sees mental health.
So I, for a long, long time, just tried to will myself in all these different ways. And then this was the year that I allowed myself to go on antidepressants.
Oh, good for you, friend. And how do you feel now?
I mean, good. I have been on the same ones since 2017. They've worked really well for me. I'm on a very small dosage. I was able to continue taking them through my pregnancy with Mari and through breastfeeding. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And it has given me a level. I mean, I still struggle, but it has given me a level of peace in my brain, particularly at night, that I never thought was attainable for
Possible.
me.
Yeah. We actually have that in common because I have had anxiety for a very long time, have struggled with depression. And the most like sustained period of time that I've been on medication for my anxiety has probably been around the same age as you. And it has changed my entire life because my anxiety manifested as stomach upsetness. And I would feel like I had like a brick in the bottom of my stomach, this very gnawing feeling all day long.
I had that too.
Yeah. And now I feel
like
a lot
that,
better.
like burning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I hope, obviously, we're not doctors. This is not medical advice, of course, as Margo has said. But I hope that if you are someone who is in a similar season, you talk to somebody about it. I mean, your primary health practitioner oftentimes can die.
And also that what you need in a certain season that helps might not help in another season.
Amen.
So I think there's also, I'm learning that in this season, right? That stuff that has worked. And there's also like a lot of data around antidepressants and effectiveness and how long they can be effective and all of that. But that tending to your needs and tending to your brain and your heart is going to look different in different seasons.
That's good.
And I think, just because something worked at one point might not mean that it's going to work forever. So I think that's something to kind of keep on the journey. But this was a really hard one for me, and I felt a lot of shame.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, let me go. So as I've said, my letter also is at 36.
Isn't that interesting that we've chosen similar? I mean, not exclusively similar.
Yeah, 36. So I think at 36, I was coming around on the end of my radiation. And as you know, I had still bald from chemo. My hair hadn't even grown back yet, but I was done with chemo. I went around, or maybe in between my third and fourth session, went around, passed out my resume at different luxury boutiques. And got a job in luxury retail. And that is how I transitioned myself out of working as a lawyer in public policy, right? And so you remember my last day at work, I was so happy. I don't remember being that joyful in a while.
Was this the same day where your Essence article came out?
No, I don't think it was the same day. But the Essence article did come out as I was.
Wait, no, I remember it was like a couple weeks after you
Maybe
started.
It was. It was.
Because I remember you wearing your suit and calling me, and that you sent the article to everyone you used to work with.
Yes. Yeah. I should say it was a small picture in Essence. It was not an article yet. We will one day be interviewed by Essence, of course.
Yeah, obviously. And the New York Times.
And the New York Times cover.
And the New Yorker.
Period.
And People.
Vogue.
All
of them. We should just create our own justice.
Self. Wait, is that
GQ?
AOC is not the only woman that is going to be on the cover of GQ.
Period.
Women's wellness in middle age is a man's issue as well. Okay.
Reader's Digest. All right. So.
Parents.
Me and Pooks on the cover of Parents. Okay.
National Geographic. Okay, sorry.
So 36, I get this job. I transition out. People think as you know, I'm not well. Like, why would you leave this career to go
Just so
here?
Our listeners are aware, I was fully supportive.
Oh, for sure.
And I actually, even though I wasn't where Tashira was in my own self-development, I knew that she was being really brave.
And so the only thing you asked me, which I respect and appreciate, is if I was going to have health insurance, which obviously coming on the other side
I
of
asked
what
that.
I've been through
Yeah,
is really
I'm hyper
important.
aware of that. I think that's kind of annoying that I did ask that, but
I don't think so at all.
But my parents, one of their struggles because they were self-employed for so long was always getting health insurance and how expensive it was. And so I was worried about that because of your cancer.
And you shared that same story. So it was within context and it was care and concern and regard for a friend.
But you got insurance.
Yeah, the job had great, it was the best fits I ever had. One of the best jobs I've ever had as well, but we'll have that conversation later.
Yeah,
so here's
we need
what
to talk about that.
Say to myself. I say, things you did today that hold tight to this joy and release the negative habits associated with work. This is your season. Because I will be the first to say that I do still work like I work for somebody other than myself. I have a lot of negative habits associated with work and hyper productivity.
I do too. But we're unlearning them together.
Unlearning. I love that word. Unlearning. That means it's active, right?
Right. And I think being aware, right? They talk about recovery as from whatever is like the first step is just being aware.
Mm-hmm.
And so remember, for 35 years, we were told that to be an effective human being, you had to be productive in all moments of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So being aware that message might not be accurate is something that's just going to take us a little bit longer to really internalize and believe. I mean, we might like outwardly believe it, but like, how do you implement change of behavior when you've been told to act a certain way your entire life?
Yeah. So from that perspective, just having the awareness is a tremendous feat. I appreciate that frame.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So quickly, we're going to talk about then what's the word for our 40s? What's the word? What are we calling forward?
Peace.
I love that for you. I am calling forward trust. Yeah, trust in myself in a real way.
I love that. Can we do another one?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Presence.
Ooh, like being present, like mind, body?
Being present, mind, body, but also being present in the moment with whoever I'm in community with.
Oh, I like that. So does that mean we're going to go to Mardi Gras and turn up?
No, I don't want to go to I don't like crowds.
Oh, okay. Well.
But, I mean, I'd do something else.
All right, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
But, like, I want to get to a place where I could go to Mardi. Like, let's use Mardi. I don't know why you use Mardi Gras. Like,
well, because someone recently told me to ask you if you would go to Mardi Gras with us, and I was like, "It's no way in hell Margo Lindauer is going to Mardi Gras."
I mean, I would go, but like, I just get claustrophobic. But here's where I would want to get to. I want to go to Mardi Gras and not bring my phone.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would still want to get good pictures, but like,
well, there is something called a camera,
right? But when I mean presence, I mean feeling like I can be in a moment without being pulled out of the moment. And I feel pulled out of almost every moment I'm in.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You go.
Okay. So you said presence.
And that's nice that someone wants to go to Mardi Gras with me. What about like
Bali?
No, I don't want to go. Sure, Bali or like
Freaknik. Do they still have that?
Freaknik?
Freaknik.
What's Freaknik?
I'll tell you later, girl.
Is that like the furries?
It's like this like black college like celebration that would take over the streets of Atlanta in the 90s.
I don't think I'm invited.
But you don't think you're invited. Okay, got it. But as an ally, I bring you. They don't have it anymore.
Okay.
So no Freaknik.
Okay.
What would you think that you would want to do as you focus on being present?
It doesn't really matter. Like, I just want to be able to be present for periods of time without feeling like that conflict. Like, I should be somewhere else. I should be doing something else. I need to check my phone, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I just want to like be.
You just want to be. Got you.
And there are moments I can pick in my day, in my week, in my life now where I can be, but it's not. I want to get to over 50%.
So similar to being present, I want to get to mindful. And that was actually my word for the year. It is my word for the year. And I think I've definitely rested more this year than I have previously. I took my first week-long vacation. I unplugged for the entire week. I went to Lisbon, Portugal. So I've gotten more rest this year, and I want to ratchet that up. And so I think going into my 40s.
Ratchet that up.
Ratchet it up.
But didn't you say you were ratchet?
Yeah, but these are two different.
No.
You got ratchet with a big R, and you got ratchet with a little
Tashira
R.
is ratcheting squared. She's ratchet.
As a ratchet, I'm trying to ratchet up.
Okay, go on, my friend. Okay, one more.
One more. The other thing I want to call for is continue. This is a continuation of boldness. I'm so unapologetic, and I hope that continues.
I love that for you, and it's true. And I'm in that vein. I want to continue my journey of not apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
So I once had this boss that told me I apologized too much and used too many exclamation marks in my emails, which was true, actually. And she was like, no one's ever going to take you seriously if you're always apologizing. And I had interpreted my apologizing as a way of showing deference and being respectful.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are lots of opportunity, and not opportunity is not the right word. There are lots of moments in my life where people want me to apologize. I think particularly in this season where I've made this step, this professional step and personal step, and people want me to feel bad or feel a certain way about it.
The weight of their expectations, essentially.
And I don't.
Amen.
And I don't feel like I need to apologize or kind of qualify why I'm doing something. And so I want to continue that journey onward into my big 40s.
Onward and upwards. I like to say it's up and it's stuck to hearken Cardi B into this moment.
I really feel like this episode was so powerful. And thank you for sharing.
Of course. Thank you for helping to curate and create a space that I didn't think was possible.
Okay. For our listeners with this episode, this is one that I really hope we can keep engaging in. And so if you just want to write yourself your own letters, if you want to share, if something we touched on kind of touches you, let's keep this conversation going. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you in January.
We'll see you next time. New season, Who Dis?